What is going on, you guys? Bastion Wajo here, coming at you with a counter to the Lair of Darkness structure deck tech cards. So this is a bit of a follow-up to the video I made on Sunday. There's a few people who think that this deck is ridiculously overpowered and there's no way to stop it. I'm here to tell you that there's definitely a way to stop this. Its biggest weakness, it's in the field spell itself. Actually, basically the biggest weakness of the field spell, which is the main component that makes the deck work, it makes the deck even more broken than it should be, is the fact that this line right here, once per turn, once per turn during the end phase, special summon as many shadow tokens as possible during the as possible to the turn player's field in defense position, up to the number of monsters that were attributed this turn while this card is face up on the field. Okay, this is not optional. This is mandatory, and it activates every single end phase. Your end phase, their end phase, everyone's end phase. This will activate. Why that is such a big flaw? Not flaw, but like more of a balancing thing, because it is always vulnerable to Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre is the best hand trap you can possibly use against Lair of Darkness. I mean, it instantly gets rid of the problem. If you're going second during the end phase of their turn, you could just when this activates, you Ghost Ogre, and that way they can't tribute your monster when it's your turn. They will still be able to activate the traps, but you can't really stop that from happening unless, actually we'll get to that later. Let's go through these in a line here. A tech card that I thought was a really good counter was Amorphage Greed. Basically, its pendulum effect says while you control an Amorphage monster, neither player can activate trap cards or their effects except for Amorphage cards. Once per turn during your standby phase, tribute a monster or destroy this card. This is very archetype specific to Amorphage, or if you can find a way to get an Amorphage on board, then you should be okay. But it basically says that the Lair of Darkness player can't activate any virus cards whatsoever. Now they can still activate cards like Enemy Controller and Share the Pain, which I discussed in my previous video. But this will shut down the main issues with the virus cards being as powerful as they are. So that's one way. If you are playing Amorphage, you have a natural immunity to it, I suppose. Another good card is Psyframe Gear Epsilon, which basically this and Gamma are both very good going up against Lair of Darkness, because when the effects to tribute, if they tribute themselves, then they'll already be off the board, right? But the effects are still going to try to activate, so you can't Veiler it because it's cost to tribute for their effects. But what you can do is you can Gamma the effect, the way they don't get the search off Lilith, or they don't get the search off of Achrima. They don't get the search off of that guy. So Psyframe Gamma is really good against this deck, as well as Epsilon, because Epsilon will neutralize that first turn trap card that activates. They still have to pay the cost, and they still have to tribute off a monster. So there is that. It's just a good way to save your hand. Like the most powerful virus card by far is Eradicator, Epidemic Virus. Basically, you tribute a monster 2500 or more attack, declare spells or trap, look at your opponent's hand, and send all of them to the graveyard. But you're like, most of the time you're gonna be calling spells, unless you're going up against maybe Paleo, but I don't know if you want all the Paleos in the graveyard. But yeah, I think this card is ridiculous. So if you ever want to activate this card, you just Epsilon on board, and you're clear to go. You save your entire hand with spell cards, in my opinion, being the type of card that's played with most quantity in a deck for the most part. Okay, so moving on from the hand traps. Oh, I should also state the deck doesn't search. It searches. The only card that really searches is Terraforming and Arima, the card I showed earlier. So Astral do nothing to the deck, absolutely nothing. Raigeki does very little against the deck also, because they can just tribute off your monsters to activate their effects, and when the monster is tribute, they can just special summon Diabolos from the grave. Let's read the effect of Diabolos. It's if a dark monster you control is tributed, you can special summon this. Okay, never mind about that. But yeah, Raigeki is still not the most powerful board wipes against this deck. Just they seem like they would be effective, but honestly they're not too bad, because as long as they can get a shadow token on board, they'll always have something to tribute off of their field, and that way they can get Darkest Diabolos to special summon back onto the field. Like, okay, let's say you're Raigeki, like, okay, they still have Layer of Darkness on board, so they activate Virus card, tribute your monster, right, when it comes to their turn, and then now they have a shadow token. Come during your turn, they flip another trap, or Share the Pain, or enemy controller, tribute the shadow token, and special summon Darkest Diabolos. So they do have a bit of a recursion. I'm not saying that Raigeki is completely worthless against it, but it's not as effective as these cards up here. And again, these 3 hand traps do very little against the deck. If you want to hit the Terraforming with Ash Blossom, that's the best way to go. But other than that, Droll does literally nothing. If I mean, Trickstars, if you're playing Trickstars, you have to kind of keep it in the deck because of the Droll Reincarnation combo. If the Terraforming Droll Reincarnation, you should be fine. But yeah. Alright, so let's move on to one of the cards that do work is Mystical City Typhoon, Cosmic Cyclone, Twin Twister, Heavy Storm Duster. Basically any type of back row removal is really great against this deck because you pop the field spell and you're fine. You wait till the end phase, and then you pop the field spell. It should be okay. Another way to deal with the field spell is set rotation. I know that it's limited, so it being at 1 makes it very inconsistent because there's no real way to search it. Makes it kind of a risky maneuver, but if you are able to get set rotation off, you completely shut down the field spell and you don't have to keep popping it, because you're playing Layer of Darkness, you're playing 3 Layer of Darkness, so there's no getting around it. But yeah, so if you're able to get set rotation off, it's going to be a really great counter to the deck. And last but not least, probably the best card to side against Layer of Darkness is Master Restrict. Going first or second, you should always side this card in, because if you're going second, then I mean, at least you get to set it, and for the rest of the turn, I mean, you're gonna have to endure the virus or the Share the Pain for the very first turn, but after that, you basically shut off the entire deck. So Master Restrict is huge in this matchup. There's literally nothing that the Layer of Darkness decks can do if you flip Master Restrict on them, unless they play back row removal, of course. But this is definitely the best counter to Layer of Darkness. I highly recommend that if you fear this deck, if you feel like it could potentially take off and do something, pick up Master Restricts. Honestly, you should probably already have them, considering True Draco's big in the meta. But yeah, if you can't find Master Restricts in time or anything, then you have all these 8 other options that you can try to use to get around the Layer of Darkness deck. That's all the counters I was able to come up with for the deck. If you any of you guys are able to find out any more counters, please let me know in the comment section below. I'd really appreciate it. This is just going to be like a counters for now. I know when Flames of Destruction comes out and Dark Saviors, the deck is going to evolve again and again. So for now, these are the best counters to the deck. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you find this informative. Please let me know if you did. Leave a like if you did. And alright, see you on the next one. Later, guys.